Welcome to the course Business Analytics and Text Mining Modeling using Python. So, in last few lectures we have been focusing on how to work with data in the Python environment, and now in this particular lecture we are going to start our discussion on another aspect, which is string and text processing, and quite relevant to the text mining modeling that we want to cover in this course. So, Python, as we understand that this is quite popular for its ease of use for text operations, and much of the functionality that is present in the Python platform and also the packages that we have covered, they are really they provide the ease of use, the convenience and the efficiency to be able to process the text and facilitate the text operations. So, let us talk about the string object. So, most of the text operations that we would typically like to perform, they can be covered by string objects built in methods. However, we can also use regular expression to perform some of the complex text manipulation, pattern matching and text manipulation. So, we will talk about we will not go into details of regular expressions, but briefly I will touch upon this. So, let us start our discussion on string and text processing in Python environment. So, let us take a variable, let us take a string variable here. So, you can see here we have a line of text here, so which we are going to define using a string variable, it is string object str1. So, if I run this one, so we will have this str1 object here with these with these terms, with these characters rather, a comma space a b comma space abc and all that. So, this is the example that we will take forward to demonstrate some of the built in methods that we can use in string. So, first thing, we can create a list of terms using a split method. So, this is going to be really useful here. So, we can call this object, we can use this object str1 and call the method split here, and here you can see we are passing a separator which is to be used to actually create this list of terms. So, we are calling str1 dot split, and within parentheses we are specifying the separator, that is comma here. So, if I run this in the output, you would see that we have got this list of these terms a b, abc, abcd, abcde. So, if you really look at the output here, that a b, abc and other terms, a starting space is appended there. So, separator was used to separate these terms, but if you look at the terms, the space is also another character and it is being used for those terms here. So, we have methods that can be actually used to strip this white space. So, we can combine this in this particular split method with another method strip, so that we are able to trim white spaces that is coming in our list output, the terms list of terms that we produced using a split method. So, for this we can use this list comprehension. So, you can see the transformative expression is x dot strip. So, essentially that is the later operation that we would be performing. First we will get the list of terms, and then we will strip off strip off the white space in each of those terms. So, we are running a loop here in list comprehension for x in str1 dot split, and again this is the same method we are calling here. Now, this method for each x in this particular output, in this particular output of this str1 dot split, that means the list of terms that we have got in 211. So, in a loop will be run, and for each of these terms we would be calling a strip here. So, we would be getting rid of any white space that is there. So, if I run this and then output, you can have a look and you can compare the output 211 and output 213, and you can see that white spaces that were there in those terms, those are now gone. Let us move forward. Now, next aspect is about concatenation of a string with the delimiters. So, sometimes if you want to if you want to create a text where we would like to append the terms using some certain delimiters, so that can be done. So in this case we are taking example where we are using double colon as a delimiter here. So first approach could be that we can first segregate each term, and then we can use the plus operator for concatenation. So let us take this approach. So here terms is something that is a list of string values that we have already created. So now we are going to segregate terms using this particular left hand side, this particular notation here, first, second, third, fourth, fifth. So if I run this, we will have each of those terms in these in these objects, first, second, third, fourth and fifth, and then we can use the plus operator to append these terms, and we are also using delimiter here. So first plus and then delimiter double colon, then second. So in this fashion, if I run this, the output would be something like this. You can see a double colon ab, then abc double colon abcd in this fashion. So concatenation of strings and delimiters can be performed in this particular fashion. Now there is another approach, second approach that we can use. This involves using calling a join method. So in this case you can see that we are calling this join method on this delimiter object. So double colon within single quotes double colon we have this this string in a sense, this is delimiter, and we are calling join method, and in the join method we are passing on terms, this list. So we would like to join all the terms that are present in this list of terms using this particular string. So if I run this, you can see that effectively the outcome is same. So these are two approaches which we can use to actually combine or concatenate terms, string values with delimiters. Now another example that we will talk about is checking presence of a term or finding its index in the string. Here let us take this example str1 again. So these are the values, string values in this str1. Now if we want to find out whether abcd, this particular term, is present in this string object or not, so we can use the in keyword. So abcd in str1 and we will get true. Similarly we can if we want to find out the index of this particular term abcd in this string str1 object. So we can call this index method string index method, that is str1 dot index, and within the parentheses we can pass on this term abcd, and this will actually give us the index where this particular term is there in the string. So you can see the output is 12. So you can really compare this output with the output 217, and you can see that if you count the term a comma space 3, then ab 4 5, then comma 6, then space 7, then abc 10, and then comma 11, then space 12. So after 12 characters, so therefore this is 0 index. So abcd is starting at 12 index. Index is 0 indexed. So you can see that this index method is able to give us the index location in that string object for a particular term. Now if I want to find out something like a b c d e f in the index method, if I run this, you will see that because this particular string was not present, so you can see that we have run into this error, value error, substring not found. However, we have another method, find method, which can also achieve the same thing, but in case a substring is not present, it won't produce an error. Instead it will return a value -1. So let us use this method find method. So again the same example str1 dot find, and within the parentheses we are passing this particular this particular term within single quotes abcd. If I run this, you can see the same output 12 is the index location for this term in this string 1, and if I again call abcdef which is this is the term which is not present in the str1 object. So if I run this, I will get a minus value, because that is to indicate that this particular substring has not been found in the str1 object. So these are the two methods, index and find, which can be used to find the index location of a term in a string. Now let us move to other aspects of string and text processing. So next one is about the counting the occurrences of a term and replacing with a substitute. So let's first discuss the count method here. So for a string as object str1, we can call this count method here within parenthesis abc. If I run this, in the string, if you compare the output, you can see the frequency as count has come out to be 3. So abc as a term is present thrice. So you can see in the original string that we have. So in the output 217, you can see abc is coming thrice. So this count method has actually produced the count of occurrences of this particular term abc in the string object. Now if you want to replace this with a substitute, if you want to replace abc with something else, then we can use replace method. So to demonstrate this method, we are going to replace comma with the empty space. So we will call str1 dot replace, and you can see we are going to replace the first argument is specifying the term that we want to replace. So in this case comma, and the second argument is specifying the term that is going to substitute the first argument. So in this case null, so empty string, so that we have passed in the second argument. So if I run this, you would see that str1 the output has changed, commas are gone there. So you can see how a replace method can actually be used to transform a string object. Similarly, if we want, we can replace comma with the colon also. So another example, str1 dot replace comma first argument, colon second argument, and you can see in the output 225 that colon is there in place of comma. Now let us move forward to another important aspect of string and text processing. So this is about regular expressions. So simple text and string operation can be performed using string methods. However, if certain complex pattern matching and text manipulation is required, then probably regular expression are the best solution to achieve that. So let us talk about a few details about regular expression. So for this to use regular expression, we would require Python's built-in re module, and there are typically 3 types of function that we perform using regular expression is pattern matching, substitution, and splitting. So these are the 3 operations that we typically perform. Now a regular expressions in short is also referred as regex. So a regex describes a pattern to locate in the text. So in this particular section, while we are discussing regular expression, we would be creating regex objects also. So that regex object would actually the regular expression that we would be defining, that would be to describe a pattern that we would like to match in the string object. So let us talk about how typically we can implement the codes related to regular expression. So one approach could be, first approach could be this is suitable when we are just processing 1 or 2 text or strings. Then we do not need to create a regex object. So for a given line of code which involves some regex, some pattern, we can just process the text, and so internally that regex that we might be passing in a particular argument, that would be compiled internally and the text would be processed there. So if once in a while we require to apply regular expression, we can just go with this approach. The another approach is which is suitable when we are processing many text or a string, then we can use the same regex. So for that we would like to compile the regex and reuse this compiled regex as a regex object. So we will be calling regex specific methods, and will be applying and processing text and string. So let us take few examples. So first example that we are taking here is now before we move ahead and take example, let us first import this package re. So import re. So then let us talk about this example. Now first thing that will take up is split a string having different types of white space characters. So these white space characters could be tabs, spaces, and new lines. So for that, how do we split such a string. So now here, as we saw while we were using these strings built in methods, if the same kind of character is being used, comma or colon, and then it is quite easy to use built-in strings method to actually process the text or string. However, if the different white space character are mixed up, tabs and some places tabs, spaces, new lines, then it might be difficult to manipulate using the built-in methods. However, regular expression can actually achieve this quite easily. So the appropriate regular expression to achieve this could be this, as you can see within single quotes, backslash s plus. S is for space, s plus is actually for removing different space characters that could be there. So we can use this regex here. So let us first define this string text, and you can see if you look at this string, we have different types of space, white space characters, om space nama, then slash t, then space, then siva, then slash t. So tab and spaces have been used here. So I can define this text first. Then we can use this split function that is available in this package re.split. So in this, the first argument I can pass on this regular expression that we have just defined, backslash s plus. So we won't go into detail of how to write a appropriate regular expression to perform pattern matching. For that is out of scope for this particular course. However, we are just giving you, demonstrating you using certain regular expression how certain processing related to string and text can be achieved. So you can have a look at the regular expression at a later time. So this is the backslash s plus is the regular expression here, and we are going to apply this on the text that we have just defined. So if I run this, this particular regular expression would be applied on the text string that we have, and you can see we have a list of string values where we have got each of the terms, and all the white spaces, all those characters have been stripped off. So in this fashion we can split a term which is having different types of special characters, and how a regular expression can really be useful in this context. Now another approach could be, as we discussed, using compile function. So first we can compile this regular expression. So for that we can use this re.compile and pass on this regular expression and create this regex object. Now using this regex object we can call this the split method, pass on the text string in the first argument. So if I run this, we will get the same output. Now if I want to apply this regex to multiple such text or strings, then this particular approach is going to be really useful. Now let us talk about another important method here, list of all patterns matching a regex. So how do we process such patterns? So we can use find all method. So what it does, it will return all the matches here. So for example, regex dot find all text. So all the patterns which are being matched by a regex, they are going to be returned using this particular method find all. So if I run this, you can see how many matches we have. You can see the space, then tab, and then you can see another tab with additional space. So you can see different combination of space characters, and all of them have been matched with this and returned. Now let us take a slightly bigger text here. So in the next example, what we are trying to achieve is we are trying to identify email addresses from a text block. So if you can look at this text one here, certain email addresses have been are there in this particular text. So let me first define this text one, and what would be the appropriate regular expression to actually extract these email IDs from this text. So that is written in the next line of code. So you can see regular expression to identify most email addresses. So this is going to work for most email addresses, and the way they are typically defined. So you can see pattern and you can see here within single quotes R, and then within single quotes we are defining this in the raw form, and within single quotes we have the regular expression that could be used to capture different components of email addresses. Though we are not in this particular pattern, we are not trying to separate, segregate these different components of an email address, rather than we are trying to identify it as in one go. So, but you can clearly see different components of email addresses and the appropriate regular expression in those parts here you can see, which we will be able to identify. So, essentially it is based on how the email addresses are designed, what kind of characters could be allowed in the part before ampersand and the part after ampersand, and how they are concatenated using dot characters. So, all those things are being expressed in this regular expression to create a pattern, and then we will be using that to match in that text. So, let me define this pattern. Now, we will compile this re.compile pattern, and then another argument we are setting here flags ignore case. So, we would like to ignore any cases that are there while compiling this pattern. Now, once this we have this regex, we can call the find all method and we can apply this on text 1. So, that we are able to find all the matches which look like email addresses. So, if I run this on text 1, you can see we have got a list of string values, and these string values are nothing but email addresses. So, the pattern that the regular expression that we had defined is actually able to extract or find or match all the email addresses from the text here. Now, let us move to the next part. Now, here in this one we can use this search method. So, search method has different functionality. We will be covering them as we go along here. So, right now we will focus on the functionality where the search method will return a match object with only the start and end position of the first match of the pattern in the string. So, let us say regex 1, and we can call this search method on text 1. So, if I run this, this search method will return a match object M1, and this will have the start and end of the if there is a match, it will have the start and end of that particular pattern. So, I can use that to actually construct the email address. So, in the text 1 the string object that we have, we can call this M1 dot start. So, this will give me the start of the start index of the start position or index of the email address, and then colon M1 dot end. So, using this match object M1, I would be able to get the end position of or end index of a particular email address. So, if I run this, we will get you can see the first email address. So, even though we have to write this to actually produce this output, even after that we will get only the first one. Now, there is another method match. So, this will check for matches only at the start of the string. So, there the search method that was processing only the first match. So, whatever first match is there, it was returning appropriate match object, and that could be used to construct the output. Now, in the match method only at the start of the string the matching will happen. So, checks for those pattern matching would actually be performed only at the start of the string. So, we can call like this regex 1 dot match and on text 1. So, if I run this, we do not see anything in the output, because if you look at the text that we are using here for text 1, there at the start of the text we did not have any email address. So, we did not get any output. So, we can use the print function to actually see that none was found. So, because at the start of the text we did not have email address, so none is returned when we use the match method. Now let us talk about the another regex method, that is sub method. So what it can do, it can find and replace all the occurrences of a pattern with a substitute. So we can specify a particular substitute that substitute string that could be actually used to replace all the matched patterns in the text. So let us say regex 1 dot sub, and our substitute string is being passed in the first argument found, and we are processing text 1. So if given the regex 1 regular expression that we have defined, using some method will find all the email addresses in the text 1 and replace those email addresses with this particular string found. So if I run this, you can see in the output 240 Ramesh found, Mukesh found. So you can see wherever we had the email address in the text, that has been replaced with the found. So sub method will actually substitute any pattern that is matched with the substitute string. We can use print function to actually get a nicer display output here, and you can see for different email addresses this substitute replacement has actually happened. Now let us take another example related to the same data itself. So in this case we will find email addresses and segment each address into its 3 components. So typically, as we talked about, email addresses have components. So first one is going to be username, then domain name, and then domain suffix. So we would like to find those email addresses and then segment them into their 3 components. So for that expression is same, only thing is now we have used the parenthesis around different parts of the pattern. So you can see before ampersand the pattern that we had now it is within parenthesis, and similarly for the second part just after the ampersand, and then the last part just after the dot, just after the dot character, the last part is the domain suffix. So we can use this pattern to perform segregation. So let us compile another regex object, regex 2, and then we can use this object as well to perform the similar kind of text processing. So again let us use the find all method and to produce all a list of tuples having segregate components. So earlier when we ran this when we call this method, we were trying to find all email addresses. Now we will have a list of all email addresses. Now we will have list of tuples where each of the components of email addresses would be segregated. So if I run this, you can see in the output that we have a list of tuples instead of list of string values, and in the tuples we have string values where 3 components for each of the email address. You can see that the regular expression that we are using, it can be used to actually segregate these components. So now through these examples you would be able to see the power of regular expression and how pretty complex text manipulations can be performed using them. Now let us talk about another example. So in this case we are again using sub method, and we would like to print segregated components. So sub method can also perform this. So this is additional functionality of sub method. So this is like a symbol component mapping. Here we have the \1 that will refer to the first component, \2 refers to the second, and so forth. So different symbols and different components. So some method will actually create that kind of mapping, and we can use that mapping to print the output. So I can call a method, I can call regex2 dot sub here, and you can see I am passing this this is string that I want to print here, username colon /1 /2 domain /2 suffix /3, and the passing text 1. So if I run this, we will have an output like this, where we are able to use this symbol component mapping and able to produce different components of email addresses using sub method. So with this we will like to stop here, and we will continue our discussion on regular expression in the next lecture. Thank you.